Being a dentisting human, working in a dental office, graduating from dental school, you are on a fun and frustrating journey. This is Paul, Dr. Nacho. I'm a dentist. I help dentists do Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect. And my goal is to help you increase success, decrease stress, and most of all, reduce the number of times you feel like crying inside a day. And on Talking Nachos, I have amazing friends and sponsors that are dedicated to helping you do just that, both inside the operatory when you're working on patients, and often most of our stress comes outside the operatory. Before we get started, I want to share that at Dental Nachos, we are putting together an amazing program. DSO or private practice, which way to go? If you're my age, you know that back in the day, there was a famous commercial, tastes great or less filling from Miller Lite. So should you sell your practice to a DSO or keep it as a private practice and grow it yourself? We're going to be talking about that on Sunday, April 7th, and you can watch in for free, The Favorite Price of Dentists free, by texting STREAM to 215-543-6454. We're going to hear from amazing experts in the dental world that help dentists make these huge decisions. You will also find out what DSOs and group practices look for in associate dentists. So do not miss out by texting STREAM to 215-543-6454. I'm ready for my first guest when my team is ready to bring that up. So welcome to Talking Nachos. This is a repeat guest, but he may be new to you. So share with us what you do to help dentists cry less inside.
Hi, Paul. My name is Jamie DeVise. I'm the owner and chief strategist at Day One. We are a digital marketing agency that helps our dental clients grow their practices by creating a customized marketing plan that is designed to bring in their ideal patients.
Love that, Jamie. You work with me personally. You've been an awesome supporter and sponsor of the group. One of the things you did recently is you kindly went down to a dental school and helped them learn about marketing. That's surprising because I had all those marketing classes in dental school. Just kidding. 0 marketing classes. Okay. So if I want to ask you about that for a second, I want to get to your success story too. But how was that experience talking to the dental students? Were they interested in marketing? Did they have any context? Did they ask about social media? Share with us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. The school that I had gone to this is part of their practice management series. And the person that took over had said that they really didn't ever do anything with marketing. So this is a relatively, they did minimal. So this was relatively new. I had a good amount of engagement, which was encouraging. A lot of people were asking, you mentioned about social media. We had several questions about social media and how important it was in bringing in patients. And of course, I answered those for the specifics. But one of the biggest things that I was encouraging them was many of them were planning on owning their own practices one day. And one of the things that I really tried to stress with them is that successful marketing in most markets is a very, very time-consuming part of running your practice. And for them to seriously evaluate time versus the investment in marketing, is it better to do it yourself versus hire somebody else? And a lot of them hadn't really considered that.
Yeah, it's eye-opening. One of the things we hear as dentists, Jamie, is what we do is very expensive. And one of the reasons why we hear that as dentists a lot is that patients don't really compare and contrast what crowns cost. They only have one dentist and they don't really know. So if a dentist says your crown is $1,200, every patient says that's expensive. Even they don't know that there's a $2,000 crown. They don't know there's an $800 crown. I know you likely battle some of these challenges with your dental clients. So you've worked with some dentists in our community, like the awesome Dr. Maggie Augustin. On your first call, you talk to these dentists. What can they expect, both with the time they're going to invest and sometimes creating a budget for marketing?
Sure. First thing that we like to do is we like to evaluate whether or not the practice is really at the stage where marketing makes the most sense. A lot of times there's a lot of internal issues, transition in staff members, possibly even rebranding. And so it's to really evaluate what a good time frame for bringing on marketing would be. And then that kind of helps us decide what steps would be to take next. The next thing is how do they envision growing their practice? Not everybody wants to do all on X. Not everybody wants to do cosmetic procedures. And so that's going to help us determine what those next steps are going to be. So during that first phone call, we're going to get a lot of information. I like to get to know the dentist as best I can in that brief period of time. But we also want to set realistic goals. I've given a talk before where I've included the phrase microwave marketing versus marathon marketing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people think that all marketing is microwave, where you just punch in a couple numbers and in so many seconds you're going to get the results. And unfortunately, that's not really the case. Much of it requires some decent amount of time, some good investment. Some of it is because there's a learning curve, not so much for us, but if you're doing ads, the social media type program, there's things that have to go into figuring that out.
Yeah. And one of the things I
usually,
interject with, Jamie, and I don't want to cut you
sure.
off, just interject with, it just made me think of it, is I'm trying to teach my sponsors how to talk to dentists on dentist terms, and I can help you with this. So when they say, you know, why can't this be done faster? Or I didn't know it's going to take so long. You can say, do you ever get that patient who comes to you and says, I need my teeth to look as great as possible for my daughter's wedding. And you say, when is the wedding? And they say 2 weeks from today. And you go, you knew about this way ahead of time. And every dentist, including my friend, Dr. Tom Jackson, will be later, knows the feeling we get in our stomach when a patient says, I need this done, and we can't do his best job as possible. You met one of the amazing Dental Nachos members at a boost camp, Dr. Maggie Augustin, and she just proudly shared the website that you had made for her. So kind of finish up and tell us a little bit about her success story, what you did with the awesome Dr. Maggie, and how now she's so proud to share her new website and what she's doing.
Well, in the case of the website that she shared, this was, we had helped her with her practice website. And so we'd gotten to know her through that and helping to do some marketing. But the website she had shared was for her personally. She has become a very sought after speaker. She's a prolific author. She's a frequent guest on podcasts and panels. And so this website was to really showcase and highlight her expertise, her personality. She likes to use the word authentic, and if you've ever spoken with Dr. Meg, she is real. Yeah. She is about as real as they come. And so the website that we launched for her was a passion project for us. I told her many times, I want you to be as successful as you can possibly be. And I want this website to reflect who you are, and as much as possible, let everyone know how you are going to help them out. And so that was the process we went through.
I think you should say, I'm here to help you share your awesomeness with people who don't know how awesome you are. And, you know, as dentists, we get a lot of grief, you know, even though people like eating, Jamie, they frequently tell us how much they hate seeing us, even though they like eating. Seems inconsistent, but that's the life we lead. Well, people can text day one to 215-543-6454. I want to share how grateful I am to have you, Jamie, supporting what we do in this community and helping our dentists.
My pleasure, Paul. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Thanks so much, Jamie. So as you guys can see right away, we're learning about marketing, sharing your message, something they don't cover in dental school. Please reach out to us to get help with marketing through our amazing key resources and sponsors. I'm ready for my next guest, and my team is ready to bring them up. So this is a guest who's been on before and wearing a Nacho swag, which I love. Share with us what you do to help dentists cry less inside and who you are.
I dressed up for you today, Paul.
Thanks so much, Laura.
This is me dressing up on a snow day. I'm Dr. Laura Brenner. I have my business is Lullaby's Career Coaching, and basically I practiced dentistry for 10 years and I was very unhappy and I quit. And it was the right choice for me. It was very difficult. And, you know, through that process, I realized that life is too short to waste it being unhappy. And we should all go for what we want in life, no matter what that looks like. And there's no obstacle that's too big, especially when it comes to leaving dentistry. So now I help other dentists design their dental careers on their terms, whether that's leaving dentistry completely, staying in and designing a unique way of practicing, or getting a side gig. You know, I love the side gig. Dental Nachos started as a side gig, right?
For sure. Yes, it did.
It's the best vehicle. So whatever it is, just doing what you want and defining success on your terms, how you would define it.
Treatment plan of success. I like visuals. So I brought what I call the cry inside monster. So this is how dentists feel when patients say, why doesn't my insurance cover 33 veneers? And you want to say, you only have 32 teeth, you crazy person, but you can't. When the class 2 ring thingy flies across the room and pings on the floor and you don't have a backup. There's so many things that make us cry inside. And I say happiness in dentistry can be dosage dependent, right? It can be dosage dependent. Someone could be working 5 days a week and not be happy. And then they work 2 days a week and they are happy. and you help dentists with this. Give them some context, because dentists can tend to be an all or none type of personality. I don't like being a dentist, I'm going to quit tomorrow. And I think you would probably say, hey, slow down, let's talk with us. Just walk us through, what are some of your clients coming to you with, why they're crying inside, and how you kind of show them a potentially different world where they smile more and cry less.
Well, there's a spectrum. And there are certain people who love dentistry, and that's awesome. I think we all wish we loved it, right? We all chose dentistry for all the right reasons. And then sometimes you get here and it isn't what you want. And then there are people who like you said, it's dose dependent. They like it enough, but they're really stressed. And that, I would say, is a perfect reason to start a side gig, not only so you can create other avenues of income, which does create more freedom, less dependence on one thing, but it also engages your mind and your heart and your soul. It engages you in different things so that you just have more than your identity as a dentist, right? And then go to the other end of the spectrum, which was me. And there are so many people who are living in silence this way. Is dentistry is making them really miserable. It's to the point where they don't feel like there's something wrong. They believe there's something wrong with them. And that's not always the case. Very successful people can be very unhappy in dentistry. It's just like, is it a fit or not? And so I think when you're on that spectrum, it's very difficult to imagine, if you love dentistry, that someone could possibly
reach out to you. They can reach out to you to talk about it, right? I mean, I'm going to talk to but people can text B's to 215-543-6454. I've connected people with you before, because I'm a big JBR, just be real type person. What's interesting to me, Laura, is if we went to a Mexican restaurant and we were eating nachos and I love the nachos and you said, Paul, I don't like them, it doesn't make me like them less. But for some reason in our dental community, when someone throws out a challenge like, hey, I don't love dentistry, sometimes people start banging back, well, it's a problem with you. And that is something I'm here to fight against. You can think dentistry is awesome, dentistry is annoying, it's always exhausting, but people feel kind of isolated and something's wrong with them. And you help them see that there's a different world out there. And maybe it's doing 0% clinical dentistry, 50% clinical dentistry. In one of your successful side gig stories, what's something that someone's doing that you work with? Because I'm sure our audience is thinking, what are some of these side gigs? Give us 3 that you've seen people do.
Oh gosh. Okay. So one of them I've shared with you before, and I love this. This is my client, Jenna. We helped her create a business from scratch where she is basically doing team building workshops modeled after those paint and sipping
that's cool
places. And it's so much fun. There's several people who are artists. We've had other people who become coaches. I have a client who left her private practice. I can't remember if it was a DSO, but she went and did prison dentistry and also got a job with Colgate doing some sort of clinical evaluations or research, but it's non-clinical, but she's able to use her clinical experience.
Awesome.
So it could range from anything. It could be a job. It could be self-employed. It could be creative. It could be non-clinical. It could be, I have a friend who has a whitening spa. She rents out a room in a spa, and she just does whitening in Invisalign and has an answering machine. She has no employees. Well, probably voicemail by now, but so it really can be.
And that's such a cool thing to share. I mean, we don't have to do the same thing every day for our whole lives. Some people want to do that. Some people don't. And it's so great that you bring out these options. Your Facebook group, you're an amazing supporter and sponsor. I see people talking all the time in just super fun ways about their side gigs. And, your side gig could become your main gig, or you could have multiple side gigs. And, as we wrap up, Laura, you said something, because you're like me, you don't mind taking some arrows out there. You wrote that famous blog, 10 Reasons Your Dentist Might Not Like You Too. And you bring uncomfortable topics, to the surface for people to talk about. But maybe as we kind of finish, why do side gigs sometimes people help them like dentistry more, or help them see dentistry in a different way? Because not everyone goes from full clinical practice to no clinical practice. You kind of said, get a side gig to fall back in love with dentistry. Tell us more about that.
It goes back to that engagement. Is if you're not so dependent on dentistry. It'd be like if in a personal romantic relationship, if you're so dependent on this other person for your happiness, I mean, you would almost be seen as being a stalker or obsessive, right? And so we think about dentistry that way. We're depending on it for everything. When you add other things into your world, instead of dentistry being everything, it becomes a part of your.
And the one reason why you're sharing this for people's own sanity, dentists become disabled, dentists get sick, there's problems, whether it's on your terms or not on your terms. If you let anything you do become too much of your identity, bad things can happen to you. And it's just, I love that you're bringing this to life. You know, many people on the Facebook group, and I love that they defend how much they like dentistry, but sometimes they go a little overboard. Like my grandmother went a little overboard with how smart I was. They say dentistry, Laura, is the greatest profession in the world. And then I say, how many other professions have you had? They say, none. I've had none other professions. I go, well, maybe your sample size is a little biased. So I think that what you're bringing to our community is having these uncomfortable conversations about where dentistry fits into your life. What do you have coming up next, for example? I know you have something exciting, so please share with us what you have coming up.
So excited for this. It's called Safari and Side Gigs. My friend Morris Mugo, who's a dental hygienist, has a very cool side gig. He takes people to his homeland in Kenya and does mission dentistry and CE trips. And we partnered. You see my little dog in the background?
Yeah, that's great.
That's Nola. She's my moderator. But Morris and I teamed up to take an African safari in Kenya. And it's going to be a really deep dive immersive workshop where in between playing, we're going to be actually no mission dentistry. Like, not everybody wants to do that. And again, that's another thing I'm trying to normalize and validate, that it's okay if you don't want to do dentistry on your time off, right? Yeah. So what we're doing instead is pouring into you and really going through all the steps that I walk all of my clients through to design your life and career on your terms, like really for you. And it's going to be hanging out with the coolest people, doing the coolest things, and focusing on you. So I'm very excited.
Well, I love that you bring this fun to our world. Thanks for being my friend most of all and supporting us as a sponsor. Can't wait to see you at the next event. People can text Bees to 215-543-6454 to learn more about the awesome Laura and the Safari and Smiles. Thanks so much, Laura.
Thanks, Paul.
So as you guys see, we learn about side gigs and marketing. I'm ready for my next guest. Excited to talk to him when my team brings him up. So I don't want to give it away, but it has something to do with this when I bring him up. So please share with us, what do you do in your daily dental life, who you are, and what you do to help dentists cry less inside.
Hey, what's up, Paul? Always good to see you. I'm Brandon Moncrief, Principal CEO of McLaren & Associates. So we do sell-side advisory for dentists that are looking to pursue a practice sale or transition, whether that be to a private buyer or a DSO or private equity. So what I like to say is we educate and empower dentists to make good decisions with the future of their practice.
And the theme here, Brandon, from your other guests is they don't talk a lot about this in dental school. And by say don't talk a lot, they don't talk about it at all, right? It is crazy that they don't talk about marketing, crazy they don't talk about how to buy a practice or sell a practice, but people like you help them. I want to talk about a few things, but I want to mention first, we're going to be doing a webinar together called the DSO Dilemma. What does that mean? I love the name, the DSO Dilemma. What does that mean?
A lot of large, successful practice owners are in the position where they're at a point where they want to monetize their business. And they're trying to figure out what's the best path to follow. Should I affiliate with a DSO? Should I partner with private equity? Should I sell to a private buyer, whether that's an internal buy-in with an associate or selling to, a third party private buyer? So the DSO dilemma, we're going to talk about, the pros and cons of each option and just try to educate dentists regarding what this universe looks like, what their options are. Obviously, the DSO private equity topic, lightning bolt topic, especially when it comes up in the group, right? We're here to try to give people objective guidance because there's so much misinformation out there about DSOs and private equity. There's a lot of good groups, a lot of bad groups. And, my job is to vet those groups and keep track of who's who in the zoo, right? Who's hot, who's not, who's a good partner, who isn't. And the good news is we come at it objectively because my business does everything, right? We do practice valuations, we do private deals, we do DSO deals. So my job is to educate. And then at that point, once you have all the data you need to make a decision, it's kind of a pick your own adventure, right, at that point.
I love what you're sharing. I was talking actually with my own awesome aunt this morning. I had a chance to have breakfast with her, and I said, medium doesn't get any press. And we were talking about the news, and we were talking about all these challenges, and medium doesn't get attention. What I mean by this is medium things that happen, no one cares about. They care about the guy who got 20x EBITDA and they're living and crushing at Ville, or the person who sold to a DSO and they immediately fired all of their team. And these are usually outliers in this world. And you guys do such a good job bringing people into this medium, sharing with them. The next thing I want to ask you is, because these are, decisions dentists are thinking about in this moment. What are some of the advantages you've seen when a dentist partners with a DSO and it goes well? The person who came to you and said, I need your help, Brandon. I'm stressed out. Oh, I came up with the term, Brandon. I want to get it right. So this is EBITDA, right? Mine is CBITA, stress building inside towards dentist annoyance, right? Because that is why they come to you. Tell us one that's gone well, not the kind of saying, hey, they came to you, you did the deal, you talked to them. What makes these go well? What advantages do they have?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to define your why, right? You got to define what your goals are in pursuing a DSO affiliation or private equity partnership. And then we've got to discuss, is what you're looking to accomplish actually available in the marketplace? But I just talked to a doctor 2 days ago. I followed up with them. He affiliated with a DSO a few months ago, followed our process. He had multiple offers to choose from and gravitated towards a smaller DSO that had promised to be relatively hands-off and to build a support plan around his specific practice. It's not a cookie cutter approach. So he had some goals he wanted to accomplish. He's about 5 years away from retirement, 2-doc practice. They wanted to integrate an associate, continue to grow, and eventually backfill his production so he could cut back his clinical time to, spend more on his side gigs and other passions. And I followed up with him to see how it was going, and the feedback was fantastic. He said, look, I was nervous. I was skeptical. You introduced me to some really nice people, but you never know who they are when you're dating, right? You find out who they are after you get married. And he said they have been everything that they promised to be. They've already identified an associate that we're in conversations with about joining our team. They've already leveraged their economies of scale to reduce our overhead. And they're in the process of renegotiating some of our PPO contracts. That's obviously a hot button topic with a lot of people right now. But for the most part, it's been business as usual. All my team stayed, my partner stayed. So it's been kind of the best of both worlds. I've gotten exactly what I wanted. I wanted a partner to come in, help plan my eventual transition out of the business and then help me fight some of the headwinds that private practice is facing. But I didn't want to interrupt my culture, my day-to-day. Yeah. I didn't want to change my staff. I didn't want to rebrand. And I've accomplished all those things as well.
I love hearing that because I love that there's a dentist out there that's had a good outcome from your help. And then on the other side of this, you talk to people where they decide not to move forward with a DSO sale for a variety of reasons. In your top couple, evergreen ones, I'm a dentist, ran in Dr. Nachos House of Dentistry and Guac. I think it's a great name. I do 1.8 million. I got 5 operatories. I connect with you. You show me this DSO road. You show me the private practice road. What makes people not take the DSO road? I might have some ideas, but they say, hey, Brandon, I'm glad you showed it to me, but I'm not interested because of this. And they stick in the private practice world. What's the this in your world?
I think most of the time it comes down to the economics. Is it economically compelling? Does it make sense to affiliate with a DSO, take some chips off the table, give up, all or a large part of the EBITDA and take a hit in ongoing income, comparative to what you're going to put away at close? So for a lot of people, especially younger docs, the longer your runway to exiting your business, the economics have to be more and more compelling for you to be motivated to sell. So I would say for the most part, it comes down to, is now the right time, right? And are the economics compelling enough to pursue a DSO affiliation and monetize a piece of your business comparative to hanging on to it and maybe eventually selling it to a DSO down the road, or selling it to a private buyer or doing some type of internal, buy-in succession plan. So that's what we help dentists do, is look at objectively, let's call it over a 5-year window, what does not selling and hanging on to your business look like? Because that's always option A. But what does pursuing a DSO affiliation look like? That's option B. Let's compare and contrast the two. Let's outline the pros and cons, and then it's up to you to choose, which option is right for you. And we take a soft sell approach. If now's not the right time or a DSO affiliation doesn't make sense, then let's not do it. We're
You've
blessed.
outlined
We're
it in
blessed
such
to
a
be
great
busy.
way. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. It's a both world, right? It's a both world. There's still more private practice transitions than DSO transitions. I mean, it's still both options are out there for dentists, and they should just pay attention. So they pay attention as soon as possible, because you could be missing out on a big opportunity, or you could be creating a transitions world for yourself that's going to be painful later, right? I'll say one of the reasons I think as the only dentist on this call right in this moment is that many dentists come to you or someone and they just don't know they have to stay for 5 years, and they think they want to be done in a year. And then that takes that path usually off the table. So I love that you are presenting this in a very fair way, but one that you deal with. As we wrap up, you're going to be there in April with Justin, so we can't wait to see you there. When people text McLaren to 215-543-6454, tell us what happens. Do they jump on a call? Do they do a Zoom? If someone's watching saying, I need to know more about this, I have a 5-year window, and they do this thing here, what happens next?
Yeah, we always start with a discovery call, which is a casual conversation between me and the doctor, to get to know them, understand more about their why, what are they looking to accomplish, and then decide, does it make sense to do a deep dive, to do an EBIT analysis, to quantify the economics, to walk through all the options available in the marketplace. And we take it from there. So it's typically a 30, 45-minute initial, confidential, very casual call. That's step one. And then we decide, what are the next appropriate steps from that point forward.
Awesome. Well, thanks for supporting us as a sponsor. Can't wait to see you in April and sharing with us today. Really appreciate it, Brandon.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So you guys are learning so much, from marketing to side gigs to making one of the biggest decisions of your dental career, selling your dental practice to a private practice dentist or a DSO. 2 things to work on, biceps and knee, but I do it every day. You should too. So our last guest, I cannot wait to talk to him. He's special to me. So before we talk about anything he does, this person looking at you was in charge of helping me get through dental school. And that was not an easy task. He was doing the work of the Lord G.V. Black, helping 3rd and 4th year dental students learn how to not be terrible at dentisting. So before you tell us about your company and being a sponsor, bring us back to the olden days and tell us about being a dental school instructor.
Yeah. So, Paul, always good to see you. This goes back to the early 2000s?
2002. Yeah.
2002. So I was in the specialty program at the time, and I got the great opportunity to work with dental students. And let me tell you something, there's nothing better than working with dental students, because oftentimes they look like they've got a blank stare on their face, and to go up there and teach them, be their friend, and guide them through this difficult process, there's always a sense of accomplishment doing that.
You made me think of something. This is my friend, Dr. Tom Jackson. We talk about making dentists feel less alone, Tom, as a big mission, what we do, but making dental students feel less scared. It's truly amazing. And I really want to thank you for all you did back then in making me feel less scared. And you glossed over it. I know you are a very humble guy, but you were part of a specialty program. Just for people knowing, what do you do in dentistry? I call you guys like the superheroes of dentistry. Tell people about your specialty.
So at the program at Penn, I did the combined periodontics and prosthetics residency. And what I decided to do back in my hometown right outside of Chicago is to not limit myself to either one, but to be able to provide both of those levels of specialty in just basically an adult comprehensive practice. And, with the prosthetics and the periodontics together, what I'm able to provide is just a different level of providing a solution for people that are looking for aesthetics or function or whatever the case may be.
And you are home. You're home for special patients, right? You guys have signed up to be on the line to, really redo people's entire smiles, redo what they're doing, and it's really awesome that we have you guys.
Yeah, we tend to sometimes be a funnel for the hard stuff, and that's okay too.
So now you're here as an awesome sponsor. So tell our group what you do to help dentists cry less inside.
So, well, to be quite honest, I think that as dentists, we're all engineers to a certain degree. And every day we're faced with necessity, right? Like, boy, I sure wish I had X to be able to do Y better. Well, my own personal story is I was sitting with a friend of mine at an implant meeting, and we were both very much excited about doing dental implants with surgical guides. I think that's really on the digital workflow trend. But we both independently agreed that we're both seeing problems with surgical guides.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that it was an unknown problem. We know this problem exists, just nobody wants to talk about it because surgical guides are so awesome. Nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that there may be a problem with surgical guides. And the problem is, the necessity is that we're not keeping the bone cool.
Yeah.
Back in the days of Branamark and original implant protocols, it was all about irrigation. And studies were done on irrigation. And what's the bone temperature that you can't exceed before bone starts to die? And this is all known. This wasn't new stuff. But I think what is new is that the method of irrigating a dental implant osteotomy is different with a surgical guide because the water can't flow to where the problem is.
And I want to interject because even my mentors, Steve Browns and Bob Levine's, who taught me at Einstein, don't burn the bone was burned into your head, right? Don't burn the bone. So I'm just sort of reinforcing that don't burn the bone has been part of implant dentistry, whether you're doing the first implant, the 2000s implant, and today. And I'm just also sharing that when you do these, I'll call them fancy dancy guides, it can prevent the irrigation from getting to the osteotomy. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Especially like in the most common tooth-borne guides, where the adjacent teeth are helping to support a piece of plastic with a sleeve in it, the water never gets there.
Yeah.
And we know this. And so it's not like we just don't irrigate. We just have to irrigate differently, which is the problem. The problem is, okay, we know that we're not going to burn the bone. So we ask our dental assistant to pick up a monoject syringe. In the midst of all this confusion, try to get the tip of that monoject syringe underneath the guide, hold it there, push out the irrigant, the saline, while the surgeon is drilling, stopping and starting to reload that syringe, and inevitably the surgeon's just going at it, and the bone can be compromised. And in all fairness, I think that it doesn't happen every single time with the surgical guide, meaning not irrigating correctly. But when it does happen, it's catastrophic, right? I don't think really people are losing a lot of implants because of this, because when the heat is generated, it's generated with the pilot drill at the cortical bone, right where the fixture level is going to be, right where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, right where the abutment meets the implant, right where we want the bone to be most healthy. And what's happening, and this was my own personal experience, every once in a while you see some weird bone loss patterns, some weird crustal bone problems.
Yeah.
And the problem is the implant is integrated. This patient's going to now live with this implant for hopefully the rest of their life, but with problems of periimplantitis, maybe aesthetic compromise, whatever the case may be. And so recognizing this necessity to make irrigating easier, I've created this adapter. It's called the IrriGuide adapter, which can be retrofit to any surgical guide. Now, just to be clear, this is not a new idea. This has been studied in the literature. Not only that the bone temperature of using a surgical guide is hotter, but that internally irrigating these guides is better. But
so let me ask you as you continue. So you can use your IrriGuide.
Yeah.
Now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is it kind of can use it with any system or just specific systems?
Any system. So it's dental implant independent.
And just because our dentist people, they have the special ability to be what I call dentisting cheap. You know what that is, Tom? It is they will spend more money on their golf swing, and they still stink at golf than their practice. But that's us dentists. I can say I am one. What does using the IrriGuide, what are they going to invest in per case when they do that?
Well, so there's two ways to do it, right? If you're printing your own guides or you're getting a guide back from a non-IrriGuide partner lab, there's a starter kit. Starter kit starts at $250. It gives you everything that you need to be able to install a guide. And to be able to install the guide literally takes less than 3 minutes. Sometimes I forget to do it ahead of time, so I'm doing it while the patient's getting numb. But to purchase that starter kit, right now it's $250. And then there's refill kits, and then the more IrriGuides that you buy, the cheaper it becomes. But it's roughly going to cost you anywhere from $25 to $30 an adapter.
And just because Laura Brenner might start placing implants again, I'm just joking. I don't think she will. But just in case you wanted to, for context, because we're teaching people here, the cost to place most implants probably ranges between $1,300 and $2,300, right? Most implants are probably placed in those fee ranges, some higher, some lower. But this is a very insignificant additional cost. And as you talked about, a failure could be catastrophic, not just financially, emotionally, because you feel bad when that happens.
Yeah. And so when you talk about fees to the patient, there's the implant fee, but there's also an ADA code for a surgical guide.
Yeah.
And so in my practice, I'm not looking to retire off my surgical guide fees, but I make enough on my surgical guide fee to cover the cost of the materials and also the cost of my time to make them, because I print my own guides. And so there's no reason why there should be an out-of-pocket negative in using a surgical guide.
I want to add, Tom, this is a good discussion. When patients say to me, "Hey, doc, what would you choose?" I don't like to answer. I like to say, from what I said, is maintaining your tooth more important than, but I don't like to put myself in those decisions. I like to explain. But I want a root canal done with a rubber dam. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What I think is great, and hopefully the audience can hear from this, would you want your own implant placed with an ear guide? Your own implant in your own mouth?
Of course. And every single one of my patients gets an ear guide. I mean,
so that what it is, the patients can't order an ear guide like it is Chick-fil-A, right? They don't know that it. Right. So it's up to us to say, this is how we would want this procedure completed on our family member, ourself, our team member, and then start thinking about incorporating into what we do. So it helps everybody. The patient, our sanity. And now as we kind of wrap up a little, Tom, tell me, how's it been going with your customers, your clients? Are they using them monthly? Are they using them all the time? How, I know it's not that you've started recently, but tell us some of your customer success stories, or someone say, "Hey, Tom, I'm glad I got this ear guide."
Yeah. So believe it or not, it is kind of recent. I launched this in November at the AAID.
Oh, nice.
It took a little while to get FDA clearance and approval on the whole thing. So there's really two channels that I could give like a little success story. One channel is that I have preferred partner labs that you could look at on my website that have that they understand the significance of this, and they offer them to their surgeons at the time of design review, right? And they install them for them, because sometimes dentists don't want to do it. They don't want to mess around with lab equipment, and it shows up like on their doorstep, already installed, ready to go. But the best story that I have, and you may know him, he's Brad Classman from Wilmington. Do you know Brad?
Yeah, I know the name. Yeah.
Good friend of mine. He was ahead of me in the program. But if I ever want like an honest opinion, I call Brad. I go, "Brad, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this case?"
He'll tell you if your outfit looks stupid. He's that type of guy. He doesn't.
Absolutely. The only thing that I can say about Brad is that I can beat him in golf. But other than that, so I shared him this idea. He goes, "Tom, this is not necessary. I can irrigate my implants and they're fine." I said, "No problem, Brad. Let me get you started." He can't get enough. He won't stop ordering them. Because you have to understand, there's the cooling component, and that's like the obvious, but it makes the procedure so much easier. Your assistant doesn't have their hand in the field. They're not starting and stopping. It's clean. It's easy. The visibility is awesome. It's so much more efficient. So for Brad, it's like he can't get enough of them. And that's
Tom, that is, I want to tell people they can text guide to 215-543-6454 to learn more. Tom is an amazing clinician, amazing supporter. And that's what you just tell Brad, hold up his phone and say, "At first, I thought the ear guide was not necessary. And now I'm going to tell you, I use them all the time." So that's all you need to get down and say, "Well, thanks so much for sharing with us, Tom. Appreciate you having you as a friend and sponsor of the group. Hope we get the high five in person soon."
I hope so too. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. So we've had an amazing show here. Please, if you got to this point, text stream to 215-543-6454. Learn about DSOs or private practices, which way to go, making the biggest decisions in your dentistry career. Thank you to everybody who is on here, from marketing to side gigs to selling your dental practice to irrigating implants. That's what we do at Talking Nachos. If you'd like to be a guest on Talking Nachos or find out more about what we do, just reach out to us at salsa@dentalnachos.com.